Good afternoon, mga sisters. This afternoon, our talk will be about zeal for righteousness, which is HLT talk number 5. First of all, we would like to define the word zeal. Sa atong Cebuano, zeal is kadasig. And righteousness is pagkamatarong. So in other words, the meaning is kadasig sa pagkamatarong. This is what is talked about in this teaching. For our introduction, we try to bring to our attention that a lot of us, men and women, we passionately want to promote God's kingdom on earth. Most especially, this is very important for us, especially us who are leaders, no? So our hearts should also be troubled when we find anything not right with God. So our goodness could be measured by the extent to which we feel a pure and growing hatred for evil. So in this talk is the emphasis of distinguishing the 4 kinds of good people. The first one given is those who do no evil, yet do not devote themselves faithfully to doing good. Example would be lack other more positive virtues, and we are just like baptized infants. For the second one, those who refrain from evil and also devote to frequent good deeds, yet while not neglecting to do what good they can see, no need to do no more. So that's the second one. Example given here is that there is so much prayer, we give service, we do almsgiving and other activities. These are enough for them, but do not desire for a more complete, no? So kulangon ang holiness. So second is they remain quietly content with the spiritual level and abandon higher things to others. Third is those who detest and avoid wrongdoing fervently, commit themselves to whatever good they can do, and desire greater holiness, no? Yet lack equal concern for the holiness of others. Example given is they eagerly desire the spiritual and internal virtues. They are fond for prayer, intimate knowledge of God, and experience of divine love. But they are not inflamed with fervent zeal against the vices of others or the dangers of their sins. They want everyone to be good and live in grace, but feel no wound of sorrow when they see the opposite. So di ra kay sila matandog, no, kung naay mga binuhatan nga supak sa Ginoo. They remain intent upon God and themselves, so they might put off caring for other people in order to preserve their own peace. So mulikay ni sila sa kagubot. So as long as I am doing my part, wala ko nakasala sa Ginoo, and I'm following the path of righteousness, tama na diha, no? So basta lang na ako'y peace sa akong kaugalingon. Okay, but then there's the fourth one. This is the those who avoid wrongdoing. So they avoid wrongdoing, they practice virtue, are afire with zeal for personal righteousness. So nagdilaab ang ilahang kadasig sa personal nga kaayo, pagkamatarong, and have zeal for winning souls. Muni ang last nga component kay kaning number 4 nga type, doon na gid sila kadasig para makadala o maka-win of souls, no? For the Lord. So they obtain no comfort from progress toward their own salvation unless they are also leading others to God. Example given here is Philippians 2 verse 7. Although he always had complete joy in himself, he was not content only to possess glory, but emptied himself, taking the form of a servant in order to lead many others into glory with him. So, ang keyword diha is lead many others into glory with him. No? So, winning souls. As household heads, we should belong to this kind of good Christian. So, naata sa number 4 dapat. This make the best persons for leadership in Couples for Christ because of our evangelistic mission, no? To spread the good news. So, kaning zeal for righteousness, where is it really based on? No? So, we Christians, we know that there's only one great commandment given by the Lord, no? Summarized into 2 components, which actually is the basis of our Christianity. So, love of God and love of neighbor. So, who loves God not only desires to enjoy his goodness and be close to him, but loves to see his will accomplished, his worship carried out, and honor exalted. He wants all people to know, love, serve, and honor God more than anything else. No? So naagid ang desire for the fulfillment ba nga, when I say I love God, it has to be seen in our love for neighbors or of neighbors. A person who loves his neighbor desires not only health and prosperity for him, but it has to be more, which is actually, in winning souls, we also desire for them to have eternal salvation. So love of God and neighbor should cause us to mourn, no? If God is dishonored or disobeyed, and if others are not in right relationship with him. So dapat we will be sad or we will be murag magbangutan ta kung pananglitan makakita ta og example nga wala ang uban o gidisobey ang Ginoo, gidishonor ang Ginoo. Unya dili pa gid sila in the right relationship with him. So we feel sorry or we feel sorrow for them too. So all Christian leaders love their neighbor. No? So this love for others is especially necessary for us, for all of us. Kay leaders naman kita. Na naman ta sa level nga budala na kita og mga atong mga sisters, no? As they grow in the faith. So their position demands that they act on God's behalf. So kita mo ay emissary or commissionary or missionary, no? In God's behalf. Thus, their hearts should be as much moved by love of righteousness. So atong higugmaon ang pagkamatarong, and we should also hate evil as is God's heart, no? So while we gusto we want to love ang pagkamatarong, righteousness, so ang tandem ana would be we should also hate evil. So this is in Psalm 45 verse 8. You love justice and hate wickedness. So kitang aware na kita niini kung naatay zeal for righteousness atong sani kadasig sa kapagkamatarong, we should also love justice and at the same time hate wickedness, because therefore God, our God, or your God and my God has appointed us or you as leaders. That is why. So how do we exercise this zeal, no? Ang atong kadasig, kung saan man nato pag-exercise. Areas of concern in our own lives, kuno and in the lives of our household members. So dapat we grow in love for God and for neighbor. And this is really just a demonstration of selflessness, no? Rather than selfishness. So meaning, ang focus ini, imong kalimtan ang imong kaugalingon, which is selflessness, instead of focusing on yourself. No? Active participation in the life of the church. Also, like frequent reception of the sacraments. We should also exercise this, no? Participative dito sa simbahan. Unya, we should be receiving the sacraments, no? Third is we should also be faithful to the covenant of CFC. Yeah. This is just a reminder for all of us that when we join the community in our dedication ceremony, we have been given the covenant card. We are advised to keep it for as long as we can. And of course, when we feel like we are lost along the way, or we are just tired, or we are just we experience dryness, no, sa atong leadership sahay, just like we experience dryness in our prayer, we look at our covenant card again to remind us, no, of our promise, no. Kaya ang kaning covenant promise man ito the Lord. So all CFC members have freely and willingly made their commitment to the Lord and to the body. And we should strive, no, every day of our life to live up to it, no? Murag sa akong nahinumduman, murag upat ra man gini ka items. Pero if you really seriously look at it, medyo bugat sad siya. So ang ato sa pag-exercise sa atong pagkamatarong is also found in Deuteronomy chapter 23 verse 22 to 24. It is no sin not to make a vow to the Lord, but if you make one voluntarily, be sure that you will keep it. So ang Deuteronomy is reminding us ni saad man ta, dapat we should keep our promise. So maybe it's a good exercise to look at it regularly, no? Labi na ganang padung ta mag CLP, padung ta nga dunay buhaton nga medyo bugat ang responsibility. Then yeah, at the same time bugat sa ang atong responsibility sa atong personal needs, no, sa atong family or things like responsibility at work. So this is the time nga ato sigurong alion or tanawon para ma-reminded ta again sa atong promise. So kani siya areas kuno ni, no, exercise man gihapon ni siya sa pagkamatarong, no, manikamot ta nga magtarong ta. So dili siya essential for salvation, but very desirable for making spiritual progress. So dili gyud siya essential nga ma-save ta, no? Di siya garantisado nga ma-save ta because of doing this. But ato dapat gi-desire ni nga haron mo mutubo sa ta sa atong pagtuo, no? So, dunay kauswagan or kausbanan ang atong paglakaw sa atong panaw, no? As we journey towards where we should be going, no? So kaning ingon nila nga faithfulness to and punctuality in meetings. If you look at this, murag siguro dili kay ni siya bugat sa uban, no? Because some people chill man lang, no? Like as I said, some of us will be discouraged to come early. Kay for those of us nga nakasuway og trabaho, promptness man gud is important, no? Kay og malate ko ka sa trabaho, we know very well nga madidakan pa ka, ya mo marka pag yun diha ang imong pagka-tardy, no? Unya, it will be a cause for probably losing a job, like kanang mga magkuan sila, no, mag-downsizing ang kompanya or ang institusyon. So kinsa may unang kuanong taktakon, di ba katong mga tardi? Galing lang sa ato manggong set up sa atong voluntary work for the Lord, wala may mutaktak nato. That's why we are challenged nga as leaders, kaning faithfulness nato gyud and punctuality should already be practiced by us. Kay na naman sa level nga kita mo dala og mga tao, dili naman ta mosunod lang. When we were just household members, mosunod raman ta sa leaders, di ba? Pero when we are leaders, kay household heads naman kita, so kita man gid ang tan-aw. They look up to us, no? So meaning, ato lang hinahinayan gyud ni og practice. Kay balo ko nga dili kay ni siya to some people it doesn't really mean much, no? Pero ug imo gyud tan-awon positively, dapat ang atong attitude should be mosayo ko sa meeting para makasayo pud og sugod. Unya og makasayo og sugod, makasayo pud og uli. Di ba? Pero usahay man go the other things are happening, like ay dugay lang kumuadto, total dugay masada sila magsugod, mga langayan pud na sila. So ang may tabo, ato ta mo imitate sa mga langayan instead of us being an example nga mosayo. Guilty as charged, masada, me included, no? Naamang ko ana nga mga thoughts before, labi na katong bago pa ko nga, dugayan po ni sila kaayo, kasapot ba? No? Atong patience po, ma-tested man po. So, hopefully, ato nang ma-overcome. Dili ta mo give in to the idea nga, kay dili naman lang yun, musayo ang uban, mo apil sa tag dili musayo. Hopefully, maabot ta sa point nga kitang tanan, we will really be convinced, no? Or convicted ba kay tawag aron. We will really come to meetings promptly or on time. Or di man on time, dili lang gid kay ta ug mahimo di lang kita malate. Now, labi na karon, no, we are challenged nga ato sa virtual meetings. Usahay makaingon ko nga ug malate man gali ta sa face to face, unsa man gid kay metabo kung virtual na malate gyapon ta. So there should be a kind of an improvement sad siguro. So I think dapat ma-exercise kita sa atong time management. Kay bawo man ta nga daghan tag buluhaton. Kay bawo tag daghan tag atimanon. Kay bawo sad mo andar atong katapulan. O no, tas bukan ba mo tapol ta. Sila ayan lang gyud ta, no? Because siguro si tintal sad ta nga gusto mo give in to our laziness or our kada lang basta lang gud pa chill lang ba. So hopefully as leaders conscious ta ana, because why man? Because we are supposed to show the way to our members. Unya, action kono speaks louder than words. So meaning, we have to do it by example. So if we expect our members to really come on time, naturally, we are also expected to be on time. O, siguro maleta once in a while. Dili lang as a matter of habit nga. Every time na lang, mabranded na lang kita nga malate. Kaya ato di sa mga leaders magbantay ba sa nato. I remember I heard somebody complain, malate lagi gyud na siya pirmi, no? Dili lang ta mong name of person, mo gyud na yang habit, no, late gyud na siya. O ana ba? So hopefully as a leader or leaders, wala na nang komentaryo ha unta nga malate. Kaya mga leaders dili unta gyud malate. Siguro ang members pwede pang malate kay murag kabago pa man. Pero maabot na ka sa point nga household head na ka, that means na kay leadership nga imong gi-exercise. Hopefully lang ha, dili na ka malate. Or kung malate man ka, it's going to be a very good excuse why you are late. And you explain it also to your head nga nung na-late ka. No, kita man sa rusay, dili man ta mosulti nga malita, wala rasad ta, muralag chill lang lagi. So hopefully dili ta maginana na. no? Let's just work hard on it. Okay. Also, we also have exercise of spiritual gifts. Charismatic dimension kuno, which is CFC's brand of spirituality. And there's the third one, or the letter C, is financial support for CFC. So the money is used for evangelization or evangelistic activities. Thus, for winning souls, though not part of the covenant, it is also part of being a good Christian. So this is the part where we recognize that any organization would always need support. And support is also will include money, no? Because there are expenses to handle, no? And at the same time, this is where also we can practice our generosity, no? Nga kana bitong gi-encourage man gud mo share, because ang atong wealth or ang atong mga bahandi bisag ginagmay dili ra man gud ni para nato. Sa atong teaching, this is meant to be shared to others, no? No matter how small you have or how small amount or how small your wealth would be, kaya mo maingon maghihapon kog wealth, kaya dili man na ang wealth ang pasabot kinahanglan milyonaryo ka, di ba? Ang wealth is the things that you possess nga gihatag sa imo sa Ginoo. So whatever that is or how little it is compared to others, it's still wealth para sa imo. So bisan unsa na kagamay, do na gihapon kay room for being able to share this little that you have to others, just like the widows nga iya gyud gihatag ang kinatibuk wa naman siya lain pero iya pag yung gihatag. So I think that's the thing here. Si Lord would appreciate that, no? We give our all, no? All meaning whatever it is that our heart can afford to give, heartily or lovingly, no, to the Lord through our support. So also, we are required to also submit to headship. O hinoon, household head pero naa may higher persons or leaders above us, no? So we are also being encouraged to recognize, no, nga mo submit sa higher leaders nato or elders, no? Although authority is a gift from God which is given to us as a means to help to move us on in our spiritual life. So recognize as a hierarchy. So as atong leader sa ibabaw, we submit ourselves to them, just like your members are supposed to submit to you, no? We also try to avoid critical spirit, no, or attitude. Di man ta kalikay ani tawhanon man gid ni kaayo na makapanaway ta, of course, no? But minusan lang nato, no? Ingon diri avoid, pero sa akong una hinahinayon ta gyud ni siya o master, no? So unsa man ang panaway, okay ra man ang panaway. But I was always reminded of the idea nga kung manaway manggani ka, you should not stop at panaway. You should be able to give solution or suggestion nga dunay mahitabo sa imong gisaway nga maayos or ma-improve. So kung di nilang makahatag og improvement sa imong pag-critic, may pag-imo na lang nang i-keep to yourself. Kay sayang magud nga mag-critic ka, maka-hurt lang kag sa mga tao, nya wa gyud ka ika-suggest nya kanira bag yung critic, it's always negative ang dating. Kaya di man taganahan o i-critic, di ba? So if you don't have a critic that you accompany it with a solution or a suggestion to improvement or to improve the things that are really at hand, then maybe it's best to just keep it to yourself or just talk to somebody privately na lang siguro. So, naman pa sa Zeal, katong righteousness, ari na punta sa correction. At the heart kuno of our spiritual appreciation for correction is a hatred for sin and a realization of human fallibility. So naani siya sa Psalm 141 verse 5. So we have to really remind ourselves that we should rebuke in kindness. Kay mo suggest, no? Rebuke in kindness. So ingon diha nga ang zeal kuno ang kadasig i-plus nimo sa pag-love sa neighbor because you want to demonstrate it, it is equal to correction. So meaning, importante ang correction when we really show our love for neighbor. Okay. Most especially if this neighbor of ours really has a need for correction. So, we deal with the wrongdoing of members. And how do we do that? We just be simple and straightforward, no? Nani sa Luke 17. Ingon man gud diri, if your brother kuno sin, rebuke him. But if he repents, forgive him. So, munang sa Luke 17 verse 3. So, how do you do this? Now, there are 3 don'ts here. Ingon naman diha. Do not condone any wrongdoing, nor concede that any wrongdoing is acceptable. So, wrong, gina, dili na siya right. Do not allow any wrongdoing to remain unrepented. So, hopefully, mo guide nga mabiyaan gid unta tong wrongdoing. Nya, dili dapat na to i-remain nga dili ta mo correct. So, somewhere along the way, we find a way to correct it, no? Thirdly, do not remain silent and pretend to know nothing when you ought to speak out, no? So this is where we are really required nga dili lang ta magpabungol-bungol, no? Na wrongdoing, mura lagwa, mura silang gyapon. So dapat we should really be able to deal with it and hopefully speak out, no? I know nga this is really very difficult to do, most especially kung ikaw leader, no? You feel uncomfortable. Excuse me. So if this is really not possible because you feel discomfort, you ask, no? You be in touch with your unit head. So hopefully mangayo kag tabang haron maayos, no? Ma-execute nimo ang ikinahanglan buhaton to correct someone. So we also are encouraged to be authoritative because our authority comes from God and is to be exercised in the community where we have committed ourselves. No? Kinahanglan sad na ay authority. Authoritative sabta. Dili siguro kanang away nga kanang we look down on others, but we try to implement, no? We try to really kanang go for the ways that are really right, no? So, mo man ang atong commitment. So, we need to also exercise authority. So, we have to remind ourselves again that correction is a pastoral tool for growth. So, gituyo ra gyud ni ang correction kay nganuman ang pinaka-purpose ni ani is para mutubo atong mutubo tang tanan together or mutubo sa ang atong mga members na under our pastoring. Mura gyud na ang pinaka reason nganong mo korekta. Walay lain dili. We are not supposed to make people feel bad about correction. No? Hopefully. So, your accountability as head, correct. So, you are God's representative man. So, you have been given responsibility over God's people, your members. Look up to you and obey you because you have the Lord's place. No, ikaw may gitahasan sa Ginoo, imo manggidawat sad ang tahas. So, you should really be able to really do it, no? So, do not allow vices and bad practices to grow. Do what you can to overcome wrongdoing. So, mutry lang kita sa atong best as we could. That's why, siguro kaning mag-correction, we also hear it from witnessing and we also listen to the teachings, no? That we remind ourselves again and again. And at the same time, we ask advice or help from people who have more experience than us, no? Our elders. So if you neglect your duty, you will be accountable to God. So you would be guilty of neglect for not doing what your duty called for. So naan is the wisdom 6. No? Chapter 6, verse 4 to 5. You would also bear the guilt for the faults of your subordinates in that you could and should have corrected them, but you did not. Naan is Ezekiel 33, verse 8. So he will he will die a sinner, and I hold you responsible for his death. So ikaw may responsible ni Ana. So after all, this is not to really scare all of us, no? But it's just to show that the work that we are given or the work that we have accepted to do as leaders is a serious business, no? Or a serious kind of work given to us. Pero note this lang, no? Some will prefer not to be household leaders in order to evade accountability. But however, such persons need to realize that if they have a gift of leadership from God, they will still be accountable for not using it. So after all, di gyapon ka kalikay kay accountable gid ay gyapon ka kay nganuman. Wala nimo gamita ang imong gift of leadership. And this gift of leadership, you know very well if professional ka. And you keep saying, ay di lang gyud ko ganahan mag-assist, mag-household head kay wa gyud ko'y time anang dapita. Or I just want to remain where I am now as a member. Kay para nako mura gini makaya sa akong time. Pero if that kind of answer has always been the answer for many years, so okay ra siguro na first, second year, third year. Pero madugay na kas community niyo mura gid gihapon ang imong tubag. Well, I think you better check yourself why you are not really accepting the responsibility, or why you are saying no when you really have the gift of leadership. So take note, you are accountable for not using it. Now we go to encouragement, no? Kung manaman ta sa correction, ay positive aspect of this, the encouragement. We also as leaders have the duty to encourage. We just not we not just to correct, look at the wrong side of things, but we are there also to be looking at what is right. So we have to be able to not just criticize but also praise. And this is really manifested in our kanang bitong honoring days, no? Kanang sa birthdays, that we remind each other of the good things that we see in each other during our birthdays, no? So ang atong mga sisters will say good wishes and good words for us, no? Kay mo gining panahon na nga importante gid ang praises, no? Like ingon pabitaw nila sa kanang eulogy bitaw, ngano man manggawas ng mga praises niya, wala naman diha ang tao nga imong gi-praise kay namatay na, kanang manggawas ng mga nindot kay mga istorya, kanang kanisya sa buhi pa mao na. Ngano man kuno nga ana naman diha isulti, nganong di man isulti habang buhi pa daw ang tao. So kita dapat lang naaman sa tong community, we are really to practice it nga we give our praise so that the person nga atong gi-praise in front of our sisters can hear, no, the good praises. Hopefully dili criticism. So at the start of Jesus' ministry, God encouraged him. So gi-encourage you siya sa Ginoo, no? Si nani sa Matthew chapter 3 verse 17. And the second one is Matthew 17 verse 5. Unsa man ni katong niingon si Lord nga si God nga this is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased, no? So mo na iyang encouragement to the apostles. Or ang ikaduha katong dito sad sila sa sa mountain nga ni transfigure si Lord, nga niingon si God nga this is my son, my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. So listen to him, no? So actually God is a source of encouragement, and this is found in Romans 15 verse 5. Okay. So we are encouraged to follow his ways. So the meanings of encouragement. Encourage is a compound of two words, in, to put in or into, and courage, confidence or strength. So in other words, literally it means to put courage into someone. An encouraging person builds up and strengthens people by his presence and his words. And he also supports but not weaken. So hatag support. So how to encourage? We comfort, we give support, especially in situations when one cannot cope. Saan man, through our words, our advice, our presence, our prayers, no? Kaning usayang presence, even if you're just there to listen to someone who is really going through a rough time, enough na siya, no? At least na malayta na imong burden nga naay naminaw nimo. Or you urge or on or exhort, no? Inspire and motivate. Not so much on comfort, but we also challenge, no? And lastly, again, we praise and we give this during the honoring. So there are plenty of bad news around us. And we know how people can quickly respond to discouraging news. Good news, our God looks for eternal optimists. No? Kanang yung positive gyud ka bisan pag unsa ka lisod, unsa ka hagipot, unsa ka challenging ang imong giatubang, whether this is a family matter or a responsibility sa imong pagka-leader, you still have to look for the positive things, no? Rather than the negative, which is being pessimistic. So dapat optimist. Unya kay dili raman optimist eternal pag yun. So hangtod sa hangtod mo ningan lan forever. Mo ni ang forever sa tuwa, forever and optimist. So that we can share the spirit with others. So God's news is good news, not bad. We are to bring the good news of liberty, joy, release, hope, comfort, and etc. We cannot encourage enough. Many people have low self-esteem, they need to be affirmed. But our encouragement helps people to discover themselves and to appreciate who they really are. So we really we try to appreciate each other, no? Of who we are. Thus, our basic attitude as household leaders need to be one of encouragement. Dapat mo encourage kita rather than critic. So mas bugat ang encouragement kaysa critic. Not always correcting, but kindness, encouragement, rejoicing over what the Lord has already done. So that loving them, so they can also move on. A fruit kuno of encouragement is growth in perseverance. So meaning, ang bunga sa pag-encourage, mutubo, yun, makita sa pag-persevere, no? Persevere meaning paglahutay, no? Perseverance is a Christian quality especially needed to overcome problems, obstacles, and trials. We ourselves need to persevere in the ministry of encouragement. So kita sad, we need to also be persevering, no? Especially sa pag-encourage. Okay. So in summary, we bring back to you again the 4 types of good people. So siguro morning reason nga imong i-remind nato balik so that hopefully ma-convince ta or we convince ourselves nga dapat we belong to one of these 4, no? Okay, hopefully not the 1, 2, 3, but the number 4. Those who do no evil, that is number 1, yet do not devote themselves faithfully to doing good. Second, those who refrain from evil, then also devote to frequent good deeds, yet while not neglecting to do what good they can, they see no need to do no more. And the third is those who detest and avoid wrongdoing, fervently committing themselves to whatever good they can do, and desire greater personal holiness, yet they lack equal concern for the holiness of others. And of course, the fourth, the most ideal that we are supposed to follow, imitate, or imbibe are those who avoid wrongdoing. So we avoid wrongdoing. We practice virtue. So ang mga virtue gihata sa Ginoo, we follow that, we practice it. And we are afire with the zeal for personal righteousness. So nagdilaab ang atong kadasig sa personal nga pagkamatarong. And the last component, which is the most important component, is naagid tay kadasig so that we can win souls, or we should have the zeal for winning souls. So household leaders should strive, no, to be the number 4 type, because this is the ideal for household heads or headship. This is an assurance that all household members will be helped to move on. And 2, God uses our zeal for righteousness to help other people through evangelization, bringing God's life to others. And hopefully, after bringing God to the life of others, we are able to demonstrate caring for each other as members of CFC. So that ends my talk. Thank you for your time, and to God be the glory. Mayong hapon, mga sisters.